Content warning. This series will discuss topics that may bring up painful experiences for you. Please take the time to surround yourself with good medicines. If need be, pause the playback and go for a walk, stretch, have a glass of water, and come back to the show when you feel comfortable. Welcome to the Métis Speaker Series. I'm your host, Darian Kovacs. On this podcast series, we will be exploring learning, healing, and rebuilding within the Métis community. Our goal is to create awareness of and generate discussion about Métis issues, as well as how to heal from and move forward in a healthy way. We hope to reduce Métis invisibility in BC through the personal stories from our Métis community members. This show is brought to you by the Métis Nation of British Columbia and Jelly Marketing.
I couldn't help myself. You gave me everything.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Métis Speaker Series. This is a very exciting season and episode because we're going to be focusing on Métis health. We have two incredible guests today who are ensuring that Métis voices are heard and present and strong within the health system. So, Eva, why don't we start with you? Tell us about yourself, your role, and what you do at MMBC.
Thanks, Darian. So nice to meet you. Hi, everyone. My name is Eva Habib. I use she, her, they pronouns, and I have the honor and privilege of serving Métis Nation British Columbia in the Ministry of Health and Wellness as the Senior Manager for Métis Health Equity. So health is my portfolio. I'm a second-generation settler. I have proud ancestral roots from Kabul, Afghanistan, from both my mom and father's side. And yeah, just also want to acknowledge that respectfully I'm calling in from home today and joining this podcast from home. I currently am a guest on the unceded, ancestral, and occupied shared territories of the Coquitlam, Katzie, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations, what's colonially known as Port Coquitlam, and home to the North Fraser Métis Association. In my role at MMBC, I work with Courtney here and help oversee the Métis Health Experience Program, which we'll be talking a little bit more about later today. That's one of my two portfolios that I help support. The other portfolio is on health systems change, and so I work with several advocates to work with health authority partners across the province to help improve the health system for Métis folks. So I'm sure we'll speak more to that after our intros.
It's amazing. Eva, thank you. And I just want to say thank you for acknowledging the charter community in your hometown. So I am hoping slowly, bit by bit, we'll see more and more land acknowledgements. Give a shout out to the local charter community because our newest one in BC being in Vancouver, Vancouver Sea to Sky. And I think one day maybe it will catch on more prominently. But Eva, thank you for that today. Appreciate it. Courtney, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to be on today. So my name is Courtney Flegg. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm grateful to be calling in from the unceded and traditional lands of the Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, Katzie, Kakite, and Tsawwassen Treaty Lands, as well as the Surrey Delta Métis Association. I grew up on Treaty 6 lands in Alberta and Matsqui and Sumas First Nations in Abbotsford, BC, which is home of the Fraser Valley Métis Association. I serve in the position of the Health Experience Advocate at Métis Nation BC, and I've been in this role since September 2022. I do come to this work as a settler with ancestry going back to Scotland, Ireland, and England. So I do come to this work as an ally. I live on the traditional lands with my husband and our fur baby Penny. So a little bit about myself, and yes, we are also about to expect our first child, who we will be welcoming shortly. And yeah, I think we'll get into a little bit more about my position and the work that we have as we move forward with the conversations. So thanks.
Courtney, this will probably be published after you've had your baby. Is there anything that you want to say to like new mama Courtney just from the past? This is like writing a letter to your future self. Is there anything you want to say as a shout out?
Oh, I love that. You did it. I'm so proud of you. It has been a journey, and postpartum is gonna be the next steps with our new pride and joy. But yeah, just absolutely proud of the woman that I think and mom that we're gonna become. So thank you so much for that question. I absolutely love that.
It's awesome. So wherever you are, you might be with a stroller or at home listening to the show, and you get to hear yourself, encourage yourself. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome. Um, Eva, over to you. I want to ask you this question, and people probably may want to know because when you think of the MNBC and you think of what MNBC does for a lot of citizens, most of people their first experience is maybe like the registry office and maybe steps. They have an experience there. But what inspired the creation of the Métis Health Experience Program and the specific needs that Métis community has for that, and what kind of the ones that you're addressing?
Yeah, there's several things that have inspired the creation of the program. If folks are familiar with the health landscape over the last few years, there's been a significant increase in the support to address Indigenous-specific racism and discrimination in the BC healthcare system. And a huge catalyst for that was back in 2022 when a report was released called the In Plain Sight report, that described a ton of findings on widespread systemic racism against Indigenous people in the BC healthcare system. So it was a number of complaints had come forward to the health system, and at the time, the Minister of Health, Honorable Adrian Dix, had kind of put forward this ask and requested a committee to do a review based on firsthand accounts from thousands of patients, witnesses, and healthcare workers. And they essentially found racism, stereotyping, and discrimination that discouraged Indigenous peoples from seeking necessary care, and that when they did, it was really negatively affecting their health. So from this report, several, and this is obviously specific to the BC healthcare system. So it was really kind of foundational to the work that we do and a lot of the work that's going on right now and has been going on for the last 5+ years. So much more work has been going on historically for our health system for Indigenous peoples, but a lot more funding and capacity was put into the system after this report was released. So strongly encourage listeners to look up the report In Plain Sight. Several recommendations came out of that report, 3 of which were really supporting our development of the program. So recommendations 4, 5, and 11 of the report specifically speak to the work that Courtney and I do for MNBC and with this program. But the main one is recommendation number 5. And that recommendation is that the BC government, First Nations governing bodies, and representative organizations and MNBC jointly develop a strategy to improve the patient complaint process to address individual and systemic Indigenous-specific racism. And you might be wondering what the patient complaint process is. And so that's really an opportunity for people who have a negative or positive experience with the health system to share their concerns and feedback with various access points through the health system. And so that could be a health authority, which a lot of us live in different regions and access health services. So I live here in the Lower Mainland, as I mentioned. I access health services through Fraser Health Services, but there's also services available through a health authority like PHSA, the Provincial Health Services Authority, that provides specialized care. So you're thinking of like the BC Cancer Agency, BC Mental Health and Substance Use supports. So essentially in all of these areas, there's an opportunity to submit a concern or a complaint. There's also opportunities to submit them directly through regulatory colleges who regulate a lot of the health professionals we interact with when we're in entering care settings. So that could be a physician, it could be a nurse, it could be your physio, it could be your acupuncturist, it could be really anybody that you're interacting with. And so a big part of this program is that there's not a lot of education available for people to even know that this process exists, that you can share back with the system that you have had experienced some sort of harm or a positive experience if you want to share that you had a good experience accessing the health system, because there have been some really great improvements that have been happening in the last few years, especially. So, so some history on the program is Courtney actually started before I did. She started in September 2022, and we received some funding both like federally and provincially to help support this program, but primarily federally to support this work, even though some of the work is mandated provincially. And I started just a couple months after her in November 2022, and my main task when I started was to help build this program. And so the two of us, a very tiny team, we began our program development by building relationships with a lot of those people that received these complaints, so our health partners, regulatory colleges, and we just did a lot of discovery to understand what the current process looks like. And then we were like, great, now how do we create the same version of this complaint process or feedback process that could be more Métis specific and safe for Métis folks to share their concerns. And really, the purpose of the program was to address barriers for Métis folks who were concerned that if they did share back their health concerns, and this was a finding from the report as well, that they would, face any retaliation or further harm. They might have harm again when accessing care because they've made a complaint. And then ultimately because of a lack of culturally safe spaces. So we wanted to provide an alternative option for folks who didn't want to go back to the system that gave them harm. And so our program really provides a safe environment that is Métis-led for citizens, individuals, families, and communities to share their healthcare experiences with us. And ultimately, our role is twofold. So we support clients that are front-facing, in a front-facing capacity, I should say. So we support folks if they wanted to submit a concern or feedback directly to us at MNBC, and then we'll ask for consent to share that back with the health system so they're aware about the challenges Métis folks are facing. And then we also sit in several working groups to help transform the system from the inside. So we're kind of a hybrid program, which is unique to MNBC in that we don't just serve citizens or Métis folks, self-identifying folks, and we don't just work more upstream. We do a little bit of both. And ultimately, our goal with this program is really to help advocate for change through more representation of Métis folks in the health system, and the conversations we're having about when we are making considerations to change the healthcare system, who is asking about what changes are needed for the Métis. And so that's often us trying to represent and bring their voices forward. And yeah, we're ultimately hoping that the program will empower other Métis people to speak up and share their experiences so that their voices can contribute to the healthcare system and its improvements as well. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the backstory and the history around that. And I'm sure you could find a Métis person who has had some sort of experience with the health system, whether positive or negative, or knows someone who has. So we're really trying to bring their voices forward as much as possible through our program.
Amazing. Thank you, Eva. So Courtney, resources, tools, what are some of the things that you guys were able to build and create over this period?
Yeah, so as Eva said, just even education around the feedback process across the province was a real barrier we saw for a lot of individuals that they didn't even know that they could be sharing about their experience and what that looked like. Who was the contact person? Who would they reach out to? Things like that. So our first big sort of piece that we wanted to cover was that education and being a resource for community to come to ask those questions in a safe way and be assisted with guiding them through reaching out to the patient care quality office, the ombuds person, the human rights tribunal, and then also discussing those alternative ways of sharing their experience, either as informal anonymous feedback or potentially mediating between the Métis person and their doctor or the person that caused the harm, because sometimes you just need a support person to be part of that conversation and to alleviate any concerns or miscommunication that's existing. And so that was really where we hoped to come in, is be a resource that has access to all of this information, has access to contacts within the system, um, and can walk alongside them in their journey as they share their experience in a way that's meaningful for them. So then leading up with that, we do offer that one-on-one kind of emotional support as well. Sharing these types of experiences are extremely vulnerable spaces to be in. And so you also need someone who you feel trusted with, and you've built that rapport and trust and respect. And that's where we hope to come in to hold space for Métis people to for them to feel comfortable and share these moments that are often very personal to someone's health and wellness journey. Um, we do also connect them with other services. So we know that these experiences often interconnect with other pieces of their lives, whether that's needing some counseling support or access to other health services, um, possibly housing or financial. And then, of course, we want to connect to cultural services. They might want an elder as part of this journey. So connecting with community to see who's available to come on and support them in that way. So we always ensure warm handovers. Also connecting with us ensures that we try to ensure there's not that re-traumatization of retelling the story and experience again and again and again. So we do our best to, with the Métis person's consent, to share that information on their behalf instead of them having to now go to the next support person and retell, everything that they've gone through. And we found that this has been really impactful for gaining more support from other services, as it's often a barrier for people to continually reach out to find other services with other people, because it does get frustrating and hard to be passed on to person. And then lastly, we maintain ongoing relationships. Our support is not siloed, or we try to be as flexible and adaptable to meeting the needs of the Métis person as much as we can. If we can't support, we will do our utmost to ensure we are connecting them with someone who can. Again, coming back to that frustration of being passed from person to person and never getting answers, never getting support. It is, I can't imagine how incredibly frustrating it must be to just have simple questions, and but also be sharing these vulnerable experiences and not having anyone validate that. So we hope to provide that kind of person that they can connect with, that they feel will uh, validate their experience and get them the support that they need.
It's amazing. Eva, what's it been like? And as you're building this program and it's new and you're talking to health authorities across the province, how's it been being a Métis voice and not getting lumped in with just the big I Indigenous stuff? And with that, big I typically means First Nations. And we just can we've got some First Nations over that. That's good enough for the Métis people. What's it been like advocating for Métis people?
Yeah, you got it right, Darian. It's funny because that's a lot of what you just said is what we say when we enter these spaces. And something that we share a lot when we're onboarding and training and entering a new working group, for example, for the first time, or meeting with a new partner for the first time, is really sharing about the unique needs, the unique culture, the unique identity, and history of Métis people, and how it's really distinct from other Aboriginal groups, and just recognizing that our main role in these places and spaces is to advocate on behalf of the Métis, and that's really like our primary role and responsibility when we are holding space for Métis Nation in these places. And another big thing for both Courtney and I is that we are both non-Indigenous people supporting and developing this program. And that is something that we've had to be aware of a lot throughout the last few years, and working with people in our team and our leadership to make sure that we are still developing a program in a really good way. And so, yeah, I think a big part of it is we do enter these places or we get invitations to attend, and there's a lot of, there's a mixed review. There's a lot of excitement, I think, because historically, there's been a lot of limited capacity for Métis people to sit in some of these places, whether it's because our chartered communities are volunteer based, or because up until the last few years, MNBC hasn't really been a big government as far as operational staffing wise goes. We've blown up in the last few years, but before both Courtney and I started, our team was at MNBC was half of the number it is now, maybe less than that actually. So I think a big part of it when we do enter this space is we recognize that it's often the first time that someone is there to represent Métis Nation. So we do really try to acknowledge that. And then we also really just try to state that, the system is trying to make change to make it more inclusive for Indigenous people. But when we use language like Indigenous, or when we say it's for all Indigenous people, it is really pan-Indigenous, right? And that often, as you mentioned, tends to be really First Nation centric, which we are not wanting to take away from those experiences at all, but it's just about creating a process that's more inclusive of Métis, so that if there's a seat at a table for, A, B, and C, that one of those seats is for a Métis as well. And so we just really try and reinforce that with our partners. We try and share that, like, anytime someone is seated at the table who is maybe from First Nations Health Authority, or just considered an Indigenous partner, has a consideration been made for someone at Métis Nation to be there, or a local chartered community to be there. And so that's really the piece that we're bringing forward. And then, yeah, I think a big part of it is also just really kind of providing teaching moments throughout the process as well, and opportunities for folks to engage more outside of just, maybe we've been brought on to speak to a new program that's being built, or a new initiative that's going underway, or a working group that's been underway for so long, but they've never had somebody from Métis Nation before. It's good for us to get a sense of, like, kind of what engagement has been done to date, what further opportunities there are to engage and be a part of the process. And then really our main hope is that they're willing to work with us to make more considerations for how something might be more inviting and welcoming to folks who are Métis, or that they might become more available in places and spaces to folks who are Métis, or that the criteria to receive access to a service or a program is inclusive of Métis people. So we kind of joke in our ministry, or it was a previous joke. I don't know that we make this joke so often, but it was definitely one of the jokes that we made when I was first hired, is that whenever we are welcome to a space or are not part of a space, we always ask, what about the Métis? What about the Métis? So that's usually the question we're asking. And then if they're willing to work with us, we'll do our best to give them a good direction on it.
Yeah, and sometimes we're used to chalking up as like, oh, they just forgot about us, right? Give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And we're known as the forgotten people. But I appreciate that you are both being a voice for all of us. I appreciate it. I don't even think even as a citizen, know that you are doing this for us. So thank you. That is amazing, because it's not often advertised, of like probably the hours and hours and closed door meetings that are happening that are. We have people advocating for us. So yeah, Marcy, thank you on behalf of all of us. Courtney, I want to jump to you. I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about upcoming initiatives, and maybe it's blue sky. What are you dreaming of? Or maybe you've got some stuff in the crock pot just stewing that you can talk about. But what are you excited about for the coming months?
Well, I will, like I said, be off on maternity leave. So I am very excited for that. However, there are things that I can kind of touch on, and then maybe I'll pass it over to Eva as well, because she is really going to be leading with this with the team. But for sure, a big project that I started when I first began in this role is the Métis Health Experience Guidebook. And that was a tool that we've been developing that outlines all of the feedback processes and has contact information and what you need and what to expect on how to submit feedback to the various feedback processes. And so we are really hopeful that this will be coming out in the next couple of months. It's been a project that has undergone so many different versions, has so many different eyes on it, but ultimately, it is for community at the end of the day, and that's where we're hoping to be sending it out and publishing it to charter communities, and we'll have it accessible on our web page that we can share and things like that. For hopefully, it'll be a tool that people will utilize to feel empowered to share their feedback. And, often we have people reach out to the program that just need information of where to go. And absolutely, we love to be that support, but some people are confident in doing that on their own. They just don't know where to start. So this guidebook is really that, first step of having all the information readily available for you. So yeah, that'll hopefully be coming out in the next couple months, and we'll be doing a bit of a road show throughout community, engaging with the charter communities across the province, discussing our program, holding space for people to ask questions, share their experiences, and really sharing out the guidebook and our various other materials that we've also developed. So we've put together a brochure and a program poster, which we know are hopefully going to be helpful for community to understand our program a little bit more. We also realize how nuanced some of these programs are, and so we want to ensure that they know where to go when they do have an experience like this. And so we're hopeful that these types of resources will guide them in the right direction. Maybe I will pass it over to Eva now to kind of cover some of the other next steps. Thanks.
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, I think a big part of, as you mentioned, Darian, like, I didn't even know about the program or like who's doing what. And we just really want to make it more clear to folks about what it is that we do. And we actually did an evaluation this past year of our program since we kind of soft launched in early 2023. So we had an awesome summer student working with us who actually is a member of our team, also a Métis Health Experience advocate like Courtney. And the evaluation was really helped inform, what are some of the challenges that folks are facing with the health system. So we got to review some of the feedback that we've received. And we just wanted to, now that we have a bit of a bigger team and we've been able to hire some more people, we want to put out more materials to promote the program more, because we did have a small fear of, if we over promote and then we get inundated, we don't want to also not be able to show up for people in the way that they need support from us. So we've built some capacity within our team, which is fantastic. And so this year, 2025, is our big promotion year. Finalizing our guidebook, our Métis Health Experience Guidebook, Navigating Provincial Health Feedback, will be so important so people can just have some improved kind of health literacy really around some of the options available to them. And we're hoping that the posters and brochures and doing this roadshow will really support with that. And then slowly can share out some more information like the results of our evaluation. And we're going to be presenting that at an upcoming conference next month. And then for the rest of the year as well is really just wanting to strengthen the relationships we've built with health system partners. So they've taught us so much about how their complaints process work, their concerns process, what changes they're making to be more culturally safe for Indigenous people. We're teaching them about, cultural wellness and how it's distinct from cultural safety, which is a bit more, again, First Nations, Indigenous, all pan-Indigenous, whereas cultural wellness is really grounded in Métis ways of knowing and being. And so really trying to maintain those relationships we've built over the last few years so we can continue to influence the healthcare system in a good way. And And then, our hope is probably towards the end of this year, early next year, is to transition into a new project that's been kind of one of our dream projects for a while, which is our Métis Truth and Experience Collection project. And we're hoping to amplify more of these voices and stories that have been shared with us using different types of art methodologies and just kind of video for storytelling to share out people's experiences. And a big part of that is, we've learned over the last several years and just in the health system in general is when people see other people who are having similar experiences to them, they then feel empowered to speak up and share about their own story and experiences. And then when other people hear that, they don't feel as alone. And like I said, it doesn't take very many degrees of separation to find somebody who's interacted with the health system, and our health and wellness is the core of everything we need to be able to make it through every day, and is so central to who we are. And so, we're really hoping that as we continue to promote our program and build our capacity, and then hopefully transition and start some new projects, that we can really continue to ensure Métis perspectives are included and shared widely with folks.
That's incredible. So people are hearing this, they're inspired. Is there other ways they can get involved? And secondly, how can they approach? How can they share something? Is it email? Is it a contact form on the website? Is it a text? Is it a WhatsApp? Is it a fax? Is it a carrier pigeon? What are the models and modes that people can share feedback?
Yeah, great question. So on our, I'll start first with our Métis Nation BC webpage. So we do have a Métis Health Experience page that has a link to it. We have an intake form where if people want to utilize that to share their experience, share their information, that'll come directly to us. And if they consent, we'll reach out. Or sometimes we'll just have people share their experience through the intake form, and that's just where they want it to be held. And we have no further follow up with them at that point, but it's just a way for them to still share their experience in a way that's meaningful to them. We have a email as well, healthexperience@mnbc.ca, and that's monitored by our advocates, so they can reach out directly to that email. Of course, they can reach out to any of the advocates or directly if they have the emails for us. They can also connect where we try to be in community at events. So we can also always connect in person. And if they're comfortable, we'll either, maybe step aside and can share a little bit in the moment, or we will follow up over phone. We can access text messaging as well as Zoom, Teams, online. We very much try to meet people where they're at and communicate in a way that's meaningful to them. So if it's sending in letters to us as well, then absolutely, it's really up to the person to share how they need to.
That's incredible. And it can be positive as well, and some feedback, constructive feedback to make things better.
Absolutely.
And volunteers, are you looking for volunteers, or is there other resources or support systems that you're looking for at this point?
Yeah, as far as volunteers, no volunteers at the moment. We might be in a place where we could potentially have another summer student work with us again this year or in the following year. So if there are any folks who are interested in working with us, I know we do want to evaluate our program again next year. Or once we kind of develop our Truth and Experience collection project, we're going to need some folks who are a bit more savvy than Courtney and I when it comes to technology or developing videos and things like that. So, we might try and reach out to any Métis artists or digital creators to help support some of that. So if there's anybody who's interested in wanting to work with that as we develop that initiative, absolutely reach out to us. But right now everything's really available kind of through our website, and if folks are interested in sharing their story with us, please fill out our intake form or connect with the team.
Amazing. Eva, Courtney, thank you so much for being here. That email address, that website link, we're going to put in the show notes. So if you're listening to this right now, whatever device you're on, just check the show notes, and all that contact information is going to be there. you can send something and it will go to a real live person who actually cares, who listens, and is going to do something about it. So I think that's huge, because I think we've all had that experience of sending feedback. The cereal company, right? General Mills. Hey, my Cheerios were too dry, or there wasn't enough Cheerios in my, it happens, and then you never hear anything back, and you just give up sending feedback. So I love that you're saying you even kind of, pump the brakes a little bit, because you wanted to say, hey, before we got too much awareness of this, we wanted to make sure we could have the resources to manage it. So thank you so much for managing this program, speaking on our behalf, advocating for us, and being a voice in rooms that are key to have the Métis voice heard. Thank you, Eva.
Wow.
Thank you, Courtney, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Anything else you want to share with listeners before we wrap up here?
No, but you did make me panic, because I should just add, we are not a crisis response center. We should also just note that.
Great. Lovely.
We
Thank
work
you.
Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. So we will do our best to respond within those hours. And I think we usually have an auto reply that says we'll respond within a few business days to our best ability. So I should just state that, because if folks are looking for a more immediate response or crisis response, we encourage going through the appropriate channels through those, like our Métis crisis line. But I thought I would just add that little bit in.
That's very wise. Very wise. You're getting emails being like, hey, I've got this weird rash and I can't get an appointment can you deal with this? Here's some photos. You don't want photos of rashes.
We don't want photos of rashes unless it has to do with maybe a complaint, but we don't provide help services, and we are not a crisis response center, but we will help navigate the system so it can be better for you when it comes to your healthcare concerns. So please reach out to us for sure about those topics. Thank you so much for shedding light on this, Darian. We're really excited to see if we get some more contact from folks.
It's amazing. I feel like I just want to close with this, just this like picture I have of the two of you and this symbol. I feel like you're both, kind of like, if you think of like a mountain path, right? That's pretty dark, and it's, we live here in BC and there's lots of evergreens. I feel like you're holding up, and it's really big, you're holding up a big like floodlight, and you're putting light onto a path that's usually kind of bumpy and confusing. And you mentioned earlier, sometimes you get in the cycle of referral, call this number. I feel like you're putting up a giant spotlight for Métis people with like a nice infinity symbol, so that we know how to walk that path. And you're breaking down barriers and trees that are on the path for us, so that we can walk more safely along that health path. So that's for the two of you and for your team.
Wow.
So.
I love that so much. Thank you. That's a beautiful visual.
Kitchen Marcy, that was very beautiful.
Well, thank you for joining us this week on the Métis Speaker Series. This has been a lovely episode where we had not just one guest, but two, which is very cool. This often doesn't happen. So if you want more information, you want to get more connected, you want to give some feedback, positive, negative, constructive feedback, even just, hey, you want to know that you can be heard, check out the show notes, shoot them an email, even just if you want to say a thank you. You don't have anything right away, but you just want to say thanks for being there. I'm sure they wouldn't mind a thank you. And we'll see you next week on the episode. This has been the Métis Speaker Series podcast. I'm Darian Kovacs. Thanks to Métis Nation BC for making this possible. You can listen to all of our episodes, learn more about the podcast, and sign up to the Métis Nation of BC newsletter to stay up to date on Métis news at métispodcastseries.ca. You can find out more about the music we're playing by Love Life by visiting SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/lovelifeofficial, LUVLYF official, and link in the show notes for your convenience. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast listening device. See you again soon. Mina Kawapa Mitten. Thank you, Marcy, for listening.